any contact that Black, Brown, and Native community members have with law enforcement is potentially lethal, and if not lethal, traumatizing. And we know that taking only $150 million out of a piece of the budget that was already 56% of the general fund is an abysmally small adjustment to make. We need you to urgently do more and take more money out of the police. And as folks on this call today have been saying, our ultimate goal is abolition. Defunding the police is a strategy on the way to abolition. We have to have the leadership of BLM Los Angeles amplified in anything that the city considers doing, and anything less is simply just a re-inscription of systemic racism. So Black Lives Matter, the People's Budget LA Coalition demands that our voices be heard, and we demand that you defund the police.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the agenda item you wish to speak on.
Oh, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go right ahead.
Thank you. I'd like to speak general comment that there's a serious dereliction of responsibility in our leadership, whether it's Trump advocating outright violence, or Newsom and Garcetti citing looters to delegitimize political demands, or last week we have police Moore coddling the emotions of his officers to the point that all of the protesters are being gaslit. It's pretty sad that you all aren't choosing to stand affirmatively on the right side of history. Y'all have had multiple opportunities to reflect the voice of the people, but you haven't so far. Excuse me. I guess the one thing that I want to say is that public outrage might feel like some kind of punitive response to bad behavior, and it sucks to be told that you're doing a bad job. But the solution isn't to apologize or to ask for forgiveness, or worse, to think that some public grilling is the equalizing force. Rather, the equalizing force will only arise when you all decide to change the civic priorities, or whoever replaces you decides to change the civic priorities. We can't have these fake notions of security for property over the lives of Angelenos, particularly in a city that has a history of racial violence unmatched in the country. We'll not stop demanding change until we see you all take responsibility for your elected position. You must defund the police and do everything in your power to get Eric Garcetti to fire Chief Moore. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please. Next
Hello.
speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the agenda item you wish to speak on.
Hello, council members. I am speaking in regards to item number 1. My name is Zoe Natel. I'm the executive director of SNP LA, the Spay Neuter Project of Los Angeles, and I'm calling as a constituent of the city of LA to urge our leadership to renew your commitment to animal welfare and no kill by fully funding spay and neuter at the same level it was funded in the 2019-2020 fiscal year. Please do not cut spay neuter funding. Over the past 13 years, in partnership with LA Animal Services, SNP LA has spayed and neutered over 200,000 dogs and cats in Los Angeles. When SNP LA opened our doors over a decade ago, nearly half of the pets entering our city shelters were euthanized. Last year, LA nearly achieved a 90% save rate in our shelters, thanks in part to high-volume spay-neuter programs such as SNP LA, and the city vouchers, which provide free and low-cost spay-neuter for the public. Over 12,000 individuals have signed our petition in support of maintaining the same level of funding for spay-neuter in LA. We cannot go back to the days in which we killed tens of thousands of adoptable dogs and cats each year. Spay-neuter is the law, so it must be affordable and accessible to all Angelenos. Thank you for considering the importance of animal welfare in LA on behalf of our four-legged friends and the families that love them. SNP LA is proud to serve LA's Black and Brown community, and we support all of the calls advocating for diversifying the funding otherwise allocated for the LAPD. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the agenda item you wish to speak on.
My name is Steve Ducey. I want to speak on agenda item 1 and general public comment.
Okay.
All right, my name is Steve Ducey. I'm an organizer with Ground Game Los Angeles. First off, I just wanted to point out that there's really no reason for you guys to not be having this as a video meeting. Organizers figured this stuff out like right away when COVID happened. This is an audio-only meeting, which means you're actually in violation of the Brown Act because the documents that you guys were reviewing in the audio-only part of the meeting were not available to the public. I wanted to highlight a couple of things for you. In 2010, LAPD paid sworn overtime with $15 million. In just 5 years, that number increased to $93 million, and by 2019, it ballooned to $187 million. That's a 1,112% increase over 10 years in paid sworn overtime. According to a statement from the LA Police Protective League, which thank you, Councilmember Vaughan, for highlighting this, the Police Protective League said the nature of police work has evolved. We are also now therapists, drug treatment counselors, social workers, EMTs, many other things. I don't know any therapists, drug treatment counselors, social workers, or EMTs who carry guns, and I think part of the reason why we're seeing such an explosion in the LAPD budget is because we are asking cops to do all of these other things that they are not trained to do. I was at Days of Dialogue a few years ago, and I talked with a police officer, and he told me that cops are trained like military, like it's a military academy. They break you down to build you back up, to create people without emotion. Those were his exact words. And Councilmember Blumenfeld, I can't even believe like the words that come out of your mouth sometimes. How can you dare sit here and say to us that we're going to return to a militarized police? Did you not see what happened at the Grove last week? This was a week ago that the police in riot gear were shooting unarmed protesters with tear gas, which is in violation of the Geneva Conventions. Okay? You are so completely tone deaf and out of touch from the priorities of the people that live in this city. I endorse the people's budget. We need to defund police on the road to complete and total abolition of a racist police force that exists only to protect white property owners. And how did you guys find $1.6 million like that to have the National Guard here for a week to protect Chuck E. Cheese? Like, I mean, it's like so disgusting. I yield the rest of my time. Fuck y'all.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the item you wish to speak on.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello.
Go right ahead.
Hi, my name is Anne-Marie Munn. I'm a super privileged white mom living in Eagle Rock, and I cannot stomach the portion of unrestricted funds being funneled to LAPD. It shows us that the Budget Committee does not understand that Black Lives Matter. In this time of extreme crisis, we need to defund LAPD and adopt the people's budget. Angelenos need your support, and LAPD cannot provide the support that we need. They threaten the lives and the health of our city, especially our Black and brown citizens. I urge you to fund care, not cops. In addition, if I heard correctly, it sounds like the Budget Committee has not already become familiar with the data on the types of calls that the LAPD have been responding to, and I find that to be wildly negligent. Please do better. Adopt the people's budget. I yield my time.
Thanks very much. Next speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the item you wish to speak on.
Hi, my name is Brian McCauley. I'm calling to comment on item number 1, and I'm calling to ask City Council to please defund the police and adopt the people's budget. Cutting it by $150 million is just not enough. And I work in education. I've also spent a good amount of time volunteering in the kitchen at the Downtown Mission, feeding our city's unhoused citizens. These are areas that need more funding desperately. And I also witnessed police brutality firsthand in the Fairfax district last weekend when nonviolent protesters were met with violence by the police. I saw what the police budget buys. It buys batons to beat citizens and rubber bullets and smoke canisters to shoot them. Meanwhile, teachers have to buy their own supplies of pencils and notebooks to educate our children. Previous reform efforts have shown that the police system is designed to protect itself against real systemic change. The time for half measures and incrementalism is over. And I listened to you men speak, and I heard a lot of hesitation and fear. But what this city needs right now is your love and your imagination. I beg of you to think bigger and act faster. The same way we as the human race need to immediately divest from fossil fuels because they're killing us, we need to immediately divest from the police because they're killing us. I support the people's budget to defund the police and invest in housing, mental health and wellness, public health and health care, and education because Black Lives Matter. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the item you wish to speak on.
Hi, my name is Evie Pope, and I'll be brief in my comment and just provide a general comment. I agree with Councilmember Bonin that we are in the moment of reckoning and that it is incredibly financially irresponsible to give the LAPD 51% of the city budget. Defund the police now and support a people's budget. And a $150 million cut is insignificant. We need more funding for community investment, not a racist police force. I yield my time.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the item you wish to speak on.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go right ahead.
Hi, my name is Carson Lear. I'm a resident of Los Angeles, longtime voter, and I just would like to say that listening to your opening remarks concerning the dire straits we are in concerning the budget is enlightening, but also very discouraging to hear. Granted, because looking into the budget, we see a $600,000 increase in firearms and ammunition for the police budget, but yet a decrease in neighborhood empowerment initiative by over 50%, which encourages citizens to participate in their local communities. So it clearly shows that your lack of care and for this community, and you would rather, it seems like you are expecting a doomsday to come by increasing firearms and lowering community programs such as housing, which also decreased by, close to $10 million according to this budget. So you need to not allow this budget to be passed. You need to make some major reforms. I yield my time. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks very much. Next speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the item you wish to speak on.
Hello, my name is Jeffrey Curran. I am a resident of District 13. I'm calling to speak on item 1. Mr. Blumenfeld, we've already returned to a militarized policing model, a difficult budget year, all the more reason to defund the LAPD and invest in social services, education, housing, jobs, homeless advocacy, and infrastructure. Stop blame shifting. Oakland has proven that police reform is not possible. Re-envisioning what the LAPD responds to means making it smaller and diverting that money to where you say the state has failed you. Millions of people have seen the video of that bully, Joretta Sandoz, berating Councilmember Rodriguez. The LA PPL have held you hostage and paid you off. Of course you want to push the motion till the last possible moment. I bet if you found yourselves $1 billion short, the LAPD would still get their money. Defund the LAPD, recommend the people's budget. Cutting $150 million is not anywhere enough. How can you attempt to reframe the lack of progress you've made when so much of the budget is allocated to the LAPD? You talk about lifting up communities, you're under an FBI probe for corruption. You're part of possibly the most morally and fiscally corrupt city council in the U.S. We will remember how you move forward when it is time to vote. We all know your names and allegiances much better than in March by now. So voting before public comment sure lets us know where you all stand. To all the listeners on the call, the council member's direct email formula is firstname.lastname@lacity.org, not councilmember.lastname. I yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the item you wish to speak on. Caller, please state your name. Caller, please state your name and the item you wish to speak on.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Kelly, and I live in District 13. This comment is regarding the budget, so item number 1 on the agenda. I've worked in healthcare in LA County since 2015, and I'm currently a physician at a large county hospital. I witness on a daily basis the inadequacies of mental health care and the impact of mass incarceration on my most vulnerable patients. So I urge the City Council to revise the current budget in favor of the people's budget, which prioritizes housing, mental health, and public health over criminalization. I yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the item you wish to speak on.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go right ahead.
Thank you. My name is Erin Walsh, and I'd like to speak on item number 1. Mr. Krikorian, I actually agree with your opening comment that our current systems of government are not serving our people's interests or protecting our most vulnerable communities. I understand the limitations of the council. However, you must understand the outrage LA residents feel seeing how much unrestricted money is allocated to a police force that disproportionately polices, abuses, and kills Black people in this city with impunity. Even if the city does reallocate $150 million from the LAPD budget, billions of dollars would still be going to the police. 600-plus murders later, why hasn't LAPD money already been used for effective and mandatory de-escalation training? The committee has acknowledged COVID's impact on this city, but why are healthcare professionals struggling to get safety equipment while police have enough money to show up at peaceful protests en masse with riot gear? I agree with Mr. Bonin that LAPD cannot solve or effectively address the essential issues like mental health or homelessness. We need to put sufficient funding into the departments and organizations that can. I am not asking the committee or the council to be reckless or willy-nilly, to use Mr. Koretz's words. I'm asking you to listen to your constituents and adopt a people's budget. I'm asking you to begin the process of defunding the police in order to create a better, more effective, community-driven public safety system for Los Angeles. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thanks very much. Next speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the item you wish to speak on.
Hi, my name is Josh Lesser, and I'd like to talk about item number 1.
Go right ahead.
First of all, I want to, like so many callers, express my support for defunding the police and adopting the People's Budget LA, and I would like to encourage my councilman, Mike Bonin, I'm a Mar Vista resident, as well as the rest of you to consider that. I'd also like to ask a question, which I know you can't respond to, but we heard a lot in opening statements about not being able to find the money or moving the money but not knowing where it's going. And I believe it was Councilman Blumenfeld who said that we've tried to throw money at problems like homelessness and it hasn't worked. So my question is, do you think it's working right now? Do you think that the current budget that we have, especially the amount of money going to the police force, whether that's 54% or 10% or any number in between, but the $3.5 billion, do you think that's working? And do you think it's working well enough that with minor tweaks we'll come out ahead? Because it certainly seems like the people that you're talking about being inspired by seeing in the streets don't believe that what we have now is working. So we have to try something else. So maybe that something else is throwing a bunch of money that we have been throwing at the police into other areas, into social services, into housing. There have been plenty of people on this call who know way more about this than me who have made what sound like very reasonable suggestions. So for you to sit there and say, well, we can't move the money out of the police, we wish we were in position to make incremental changes is pretty absurd. And Councilman Koretz, the fact that you started your statement by talking about the horror of seeing the George Floyd video and ended it by talking about burnt down police cars is important.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, sir, your time's expired. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the item you wish to speak on.
Hi, my name is Elise. I'm a constituent in District 5. Your budget revisions and recommendations need to defund LAPD in favor of community-led services as detailed in the People's Budget LA. Paul Koretz's introductory comments suggesting that the creators of the People's Budget LA don't know what they're talking about is disrespectful, ignorant, and misleading, and shows the corrupt priorities of politicians who accept campaign donations from the police. I live in Koretz's district, and the level of inequality shown by the neglect and the cruel over-policing of unhoused folks, especially unhoused Black folks, right next to the mansions of Bel Air, it is one of the countless examples of District 5's need and this entire city's need for systemic change that addresses the real needs and inequalities of our communities, not the priorities of the political and economic elite. The People's Budget LA provides for this need, seeing as it was created by and with the people that you have been elected to represent, and, as these protests and these comments show, is supported by a vast majority of constituents that you have been elected to represent. LAPD has exhibited ceaseless harassment and murder of Black communities with little to no consequence. It doesn't need reform. It doesn't need your excuses. It needs defunding. I yield my time.
Thanks very much. Next speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the item you wish to speak on.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go right ahead.
Okay, hi, my name is Kelly Kay. I'm an assistant professor at UCLA, and my current research is focused on fiscal policy. I'm calling to comment on item 1 as well as make general comments. Is that okay?
Yes, I'm sorry. It's your floor. Go right ahead.
Okay. So I'm calling in today to say that Mayor Garcetti's allocation of such a large portion of the city budget to the LAPD is fiscally and socially irresponsible, and to urge the council to reject the mayor's budget and adopt the priorities outlined in the people's budget. I recognize that, as with all cities, Los Angeles operates on a fixed budget, and much of its unrestricted funds come from taxes paid by Angelenos. I know we're in the midst of an unprecedented global pandemic, which has occurred on the heels of an affordability crisis that has made the city increasingly unlivable for many of its longtime residents. Given all that we are facing, it would be difficult to move forward as a community without substantial funds being dedicated to the members of our community who are most in need. Black and brown Angelenos who face discrimination and police violence, our unhoused neighbors, and those who face the threat of eviction or untenable rent increases, our neighbors who face healthcare and mental health crises, and our children and the elderly. It is unconscionable to approve a budget that continues to exacerbate these crises instead of alleviating them. Again, I fully appreciate that we have a tight budget, perhaps tighter than it has been in a long time, but you are our representatives and these are our tax dollars. We need to direct our unrestricted funds towards care, not costs. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you very much. Members of the committee, we had originally set aside an hour and a half, but we have about a half an hour more of that to go. I would recommend that we add another half an hour to that so that we can take as many callers as we can. So we will go for another hour of public comment if there's no objection. So with that, go right ahead. Next speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the item you wish to speak on.
Hi, my name is Jessie Maurice, and I am calling in regards to item 1. Dear council members, this past week we have seen the current LAPD budget of $3.1 billion in action. Rubber bullets being shot at the faces of people, resulting in skin ripped off, eyesight loss. These rubber bullets being shot at people protesting police brutality. We have seen tear gas thrown at people protesting police brutality. Tear gas, a chemical weapon banned in warfare under the Geneva Protocol of 1925, a chemical that targets the lungs during a pandemic with a virus that targets the lungs. It is evident that a heavy amount of the current $3.1 billion budget for the LAPD is spent on weapons invested in exercising violence and murder on innocent and unarmed Angelenos. We are amidst a global pandemic where 55% of Angelenos are unemployed, and you are diminishing the budgets for housing when LA has a housing crisis to top it all off. It makes no sense, which is why we demand to defund the police and put our tax-paying money back into our communities. I ask you to not just take a look at the people's budget, which was crafted by 10,000 Angelenos, but adopt the people's budget, which allocates the largest amount of money to universal aid and crisis management, build environment, and reimagine community safety. I yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the item you wish to speak on.
Hi, my name is, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go right ahead.
Thank you. Good afternoon, council members. I'm here to demand that the LAPD be defunded immediately and in accordance with the people's budget. It's that simple. Listen, at the outset of COVID, our healthcare workers waited months for supplies, resources, and testing kits to become available. But it took the LAPD just one day to spring into full military mode marking the start of an apocalyptic fortnight of uniformed officers beating, gassing, and shooting at peaceful citizens simply because those citizens showed up to exercise their First Amendment rights. After decades of misguided reform efforts, it is time to admit the LAPD is a failed experiment in policing. I support the People's Budget, which calls for an immediate reduction of the size and scope of the LAPD, simultaneous with reinvestment in housing, education, and other community initiatives. I specifically agree with Councilmember Bonin's comments about new, solutions-driven, nonviolent approaches for responding to public needs. On the other hand, Councilmember Blumenfield, your assessment that a decline in community policing will lead to an increase in a militarized state, sir, it's simply wrong, and it is based on an unexamined and incorrect assumption that the Los Angeles community is unable to police and regulate itself, and the people of Los Angeles need you to confront and dispel this in your heart for yourself right now. And to Councilmember Koritz, don't tell us that the budget is short in one breath and then try to drum up sympathy for 8 burned cop cars in the next. Just decommission them and the officers that drove them and put the money toward community programs and neighborhood councils. This is not hard. Please, council members, please listen to the people with curiosity and with a willingness to question your own unexamined assumptions about the ability of the people to police themselves. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the item which you wish to speak on.
Hi, my name is Zoe. I'd like to make a public comment. The people of LA have shown, thank you. The people of LA have shown overwhelming support for significantly defunding LAPD to invest in communities instead through the People's Budget on the way to full abolition. We need healthcare, education, crisis management, housing, free transportation, and public safety on our terms. I don't understand how you can remain so viciously unyielding when it is strikingly obvious that police are central perpetrators of violence in the city. Your people are hurting under your leadership, and you don't give a fuck. You work for us, remember? I yield my time. Fuck you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the item you wish to speak on.
What's up, fam? It's John Motter at Ground Game LA. General public comment. Am I still muted?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go right ahead. We can hear you.
Yeah. So my first comment is back to Paul, who's concerned about cutting the police budget, and of course you would be, because that would mean you can't send LAPD out to terrorize unhoused Black trans women like you did at Poinsettia Park when you expelled them from there. Look it up, folks. Paul Koretz is a racist transphobe. Bob Blumenfeld, LAPD is already one of the most militarized police departments in the country. You've done nothing to stop the 1033 program. We still data share with DOD, so I don't know what the hell you're talking about. And yeah, lastly, I'm just going to read this list, this handy little list I found of 8 simple things our totally non-racist city council and mayors can do to solve the issue with racist policing without impacting the budget at all. They are, number 1, defund the police. 2, defund the police. 3, defund the police. 4, defund the police. 5, defund the police. 6, defund the police. 7, defund the police. And 8, defund the police. In addition to those 8, I have 40 of my own points I would like to add to them. They are 9, defund the police. 10, cancel the Olympics. 11, defund the police. 12, defund the police. 13, you got to defund the police. 14, defund the police. 15, defund the police. 16, defund the police.
All right.
17,
thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Defund the police.
Caller, please state your name and the agenda item you wish to speak on.
Hello, my name is Sean Cullen. I'm here to speak on the tabled motion number 1.
Go right ahead.
Yes, I'm calling in today as a constituent in David Rue's district. I'm also on the steering committee of Democratic Socialists of America, Los Angeles. We have endorsed the Healthy LA and People's Budget coalitions. I urge you and the rest of the City Council to reject the mayor's proposed budget. And I also ask you to reflect a little bit on the qualitative rather than the quantitative aspect of city budgeting. There's been a lot of talk today. How much money are we going to cut from the police department? How much money are we going to put towards other services and community policing, etc.? Look to Minneapolis. Look at what they're trying to do in terms of rejecting the notion of contemporary police policies and the structure of the police department in general. When NWA wrote the song "Fuck the Police," they were really saying "Fuck the LAPD." The LAPD is a scar on our city. It is one of the most historically corrupt and despicable institutions in the United States. And what a lot of your constituents forget, even though they know it in their hearts, is that we didn't elect these people. We elected you. And we need you to hold the police accountable, first of all, by defunding them and eventually abolishing the LAPD as me, a guy from Philadelphia, as the members of DSALA who had rubber bullets shot at them during protests. As we all know, this is one of the most corrupt and despicable organizations in the United States. It's a blight on our city, and we need to start thinking not in terms of dollars and cents, but in terms of human lives, humanitarian goals. And while we're at it, why don't we not have the Olympics here in 2028 and bring a buttload more police and troops and government agencies into the city? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the item you wish to speak on. Caller, state your name and the item you wish to speak on.
Go right ahead, speaker.
Caller, please state your name and the item you wish to speak on.
Okay, we'll need to move to the next speaker, please.
Caller, state your name and the item you wish to speak on.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi.
Go right ahead.
Patrick. Thank you. My name's Patrick, and I'm speaking on item 1. I'm a resident of LA in the District 10, Wilshire, Koreatown neighborhood. As an emerging healthcare provider, I've been sitting with the rawness of my disappointment in the leadership of the elected city officials. As we continue to face a pandemic of a novel virus that attacks the respiratory system, we're collectively witnessing the use of tear gas in the streets. This level of inhumane ignorance among elected officials must stop. To cite a few research studies, tear gas exposure increases the risk of influenza, pneumonia, bronchitis, and other respiratory illnesses. Hello, COVID-19. Repeated exposure of tear gas increases risk of bronchitis and prolonged cough lasting up to several weeks. Tear gas is an irritant to cells that activates pain receptors, leading to intense burning of eyes, throat, lungs, skin, and mucous membranes. Other effects of tear gas include a difficulty in swallowing, drooling, or severe burning in the mouth. In some cases, it can cause an asthma attack, as we have witnessed, or swelling in the area that could potentially lead to asphyxiation or death. Additionally, tear gas has been found to cause miscarriages. Ending the use of tear gas and other archaic procedures rooted in violence as exhibited by the LAPD is just the start of defunding the police budget. It is now your responsibility and that of Mayor Garcetti to answer for these brutal and senseless actions of the LAPD and to defund the police and reallocate these funds to essential public health services, including medical and mental health, as well as homelessness services. You can do better than a mere $150 million, and you know it. To see the city more readily prepared to militarize itself against peaceful protesters than it is to face a pandemic should be a clear sign to where your priorities are. I hope you're paying attention. Defund the police, fund social health services. I stand in solidarity with Black Lives Matter, the People's Budget LA, and Healthy LA Coalitions. Thank you. Adopt the People's Budget.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the item you wish to speak on.
Hi, my name is Jenny Walton-Wetzel, and I'm giving general comment. I'm a clinical social worker. I live in the 13th district, and I join the voices calling on you to support a people's budget. Financing a militarized police force while humane and evidence-based programs are continually defunded is sickening from a moral perspective, but it's also absurd and insane from a rational policy perspective. You don't have to start from scratch. Some of you seem to think we'd have to, which is bizarre. As a social worker, I know that there are many, many solutions already operating to meet community needs, and they are very well suited to respond to human suffering in our city if you just take LAPD money and fund us. Our sick obsession with policing has caused horrific harm and trauma and has poisoned our integrity as a community. I'm starting to think that you guys must be scared of cops too. Is that the case? You've got to find the vision and courage to create an ethical and nonviolent, well-funded social service sector here. Please make LA a leader in this. I yield my time.
Thanks very much. Next speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the item you wish to speak on.
Hi, my name is Kendall Mayhew, and I'd like to give general public comment and speak on agenda item number 1.
Okay, go right ahead.
I'm an organizer with Ground Game LA, and I'll start by saying I want to express solidarity to everyone rising up for abolition across this racist country and around the world. Perhaps it is the generational divide at work, but you continue to expect that your constituents won't be able to keep tabs on your lies, your obfuscations, and your continuous abdication of leadership. The comments from Koretz are perfect, really, because they are a great example of what has brought us here. Our system dismisses the people most impacted by any issue as somehow incapable of being experts on their own communities. You continue this by calling the demands of BLM and their committed allies new or somehow unreasonable. The reality is that it is you who have zero credibility. You each make over $200,000 a year, more than any city council person in the nation. Here's a little context. New York has 50 city council people. Chicago has 51 aldermen. There are 15 of you, making you the most powerful city council members in the country. And yet, you continue to claim you cannot abolish the deadliest and most militarized police force in America and cancel rent for the same people who are targeted by LAPD and handed over to ICE for deportation whenever possible. With the exception of Mike Bonin, none of you can even acknowledge the pain of people of Los Angeles credibly. This is LA. LAPD is responsible for the original viral video of racist police brutality. Before the internet, they managed to go fucking viral. And since then, they have only become more militarized and well-funded because of elected officials. You are the past. Black Lives Matter and their allies are the future. Commit to our demands, enact the people's budget, fire Chief Moore, turn in your resignations, and then get the fuck out of the way because we are building a city that takes care of all of us. I yield my time. Fuck you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the item you wish to speak on.
Hi, my name is Ali Vingiano. I'm calling to speak general comments.
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay, thanks. It's hard to tell if you can hear. So I'm calling, like so many others, to ask you to defund the police and adopt the people's budget. And others have mentioned this as well, but many of you have accepted contributions from the LAPD, and I'm calling today to ask you to commit to stop taking contributions moving forward. Many of you are up for re-election. I'm in District 4 with David Rue, who's accepted $44,933 from the LAPD. The chair of this committee has accepted, Paul Krikorian has accepted $24,998. Paul Koretz, you've accepted $56,061. Even Mike Bonin, who whose comments have been, who's spoken up against this, you've accepted $26,553. In fact, altogether between 2017 and 2020, you guys have accepted nearly $400,000 from the LAPD. So will you commit to investing this blood money in bail funds, in mutual aid funds, and in organizations that benefit LA's Black community, or will you continue to put the police over the people? If you don't want to contribute to devastating the city, you need to invest in public schools, in housing, in transportation, and stop overfunding the police that is terrorizing the communities that need the money the most. Also, the police are just generally incompetent. At the 2 protests weekend, tons of thousands of people were there. There was no violence because the police did not show up. The police also, I drove by an Eagle Rock Target last week, and there were 4 police cars there, not a single person in the fucking parking lot. So just preemptively protecting a Target is where our public money is going. $150 million is not enough to adequately address structural racism. Everybody knows it. It's also not a budget cut if you're just decreasing a budget increase. So adopt the police budget, Black Lives Matter. You guys are elected officials. Empower yourself.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Next speaker, please. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the item you wish to speak on. Caller?
Go right ahead, speaker. Go right ahead,
Hello, can you hear
caller.
me?
Yes, we can. Go right ahead.
Oh, hello. My name is Emily Munoz-Snyder, and I'm calling in regards to 2 items. I believe the first one is going to be item 12. On that, I'd just like to say, please eliminate Exhibit H and fund the Department of Cultural Affairs. Cutting funding to art and culture will have rippling effects, starting with the employees of the DCA. Furthermore, investing in art is not expensive, and the research is there to show how many positive outcomes it leads to for children, for students, and for communities. It also provides healing therapeutic services for people of all ages. The wealthy always have and always will have access to arts and culture. This connects to the general comment I would like to make on item 1. Divert part of the police budget to arts and other health and community services in communities impacted by poverty and trauma caused by the racist LAPD. This movement is not going away, and it is international. It's been happening in Hong Kong and in Chile. Policing at the rate us people of privilege have been conditioned to accept has never been necessary and has always been unethical. Camera phones are not going away, and communication facilitated by the internet is not going away. The policymakers of Los Angeles cannot stick their heads in the sand on this. Defund the police, invest in systematically disadvantaged communities, and be part of the positive change that will happen in the world, whether you're on board or not. I really want to see Los Angeles do well on this. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the agenda item you wish to speak on.
Hi, yes, my name is Brady Collins. I'm with Kiwa, the Koreatown Immigrant Workers Alliance. I'd like to speak on item 1 in general public comment.
Okay.
Yes, I'm calling because I strongly support the Healthy LA and People's Budget coalitions. Kiwa was founded in 1992 in order to help address the underlying economic conditions that led to the Rodney King civil unrest. Nearly 3 decades later, the city of LA has still not done its part. I urge you and the rest of the city council to reject the mayor's proposed budget. It does not reflect the priorities and values of Los Angeles residents, and the $150 million reduction in the LAPD's budget is merely a Band-Aid on an open chest wound. In this time of global pandemic and the fight to end systemic racism, the city budget should invest in communities, not policing. Improving access to housing and economic opportunity is the best policy for preventing crime and recovering from this pandemic. I urge you to support the People's Budget LA, and I demand the defunding of the police. And the Healthy LA Coalition's proposal for funding of much-needed housing programs is an important one, and I urge you to support that as well. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the item you wish to speak on.
Hello, my name is Dion Turner, speaking on item number 1 in general public comment.
Very good. Go right ahead.
I'm calling as a public policy advocate for the Inner City Law Center. We provide free legal services to the poorest and most vulnerable residents of LA. We urge this committee and the rest of the council to reject the mayor's proposed budget and instead intentionally defund LAPD while supporting the Healthy LA and People's Budget requests. In this time of global pandemic and the fight to end systemic racism, the city's budget should reflect the values and needs of the people you serve. We request funding of the following housing measures among those echoed by my Healthy LA and People's Budget colleagues. 1, to fully fund HSID to ensure existing tenant protections are fully covered, and there is an unprecedented wave of evictions looming. 2, secure 500 units in creating a social housing pilot program for publicly owned property. 3, as an active member of the Right to Counsel Coalition, we seek an investment of $70 million in a fully funded Right to Counsel and eviction defense program that includes legal defense, tenant outreach, education, and targeted rental assistance. Moving on to general public comment, I want to raise that the UCLA Luskin published a report titled The Impending Evictions and Homelessness in LA, and the report highlighted the following facts. The fact that the city has abandoned its prior commitment of allocating $9 million to Right to Counsel, the fact that without a comprehensive eviction prevention and defense program, hundreds of thousands of LA households will be facing undefended evictions when a state of emergency is over, and it is our low-income communities of color that will face the heaviest concentration of evictions. Finally, what's to come will be another round in the systemic unhousing of people, especially as the COVID-19 pandemic has exposed and deepened the inequality in LA, with the burden of this crisis carried disproportionately by our Black and brown communities of color. These requests are just a drop in the drain pool of resources needed to reverse decades of racist policies, land use policies, and divestment from LA's Black and brown communities that continue to have devastating effects today. Thank you, and I yield my time.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the item you wish to speak on.
Hi, my name is Daryl Jones, and I'd like to speak on agenda item number 1.
Very good. Go right ahead.
So I live in District 13, and I want to frame this idea in the context a little differently for you all and your careers. So I know that many of the callers are aggressively demanding you to act, so I would consider this. When you act, you will have the support of all the people. We are ready to lift you up. We are ready to support you. We are ready to fight with you. Those of us in the streets are calling out for people like you with the power to join us. You will never have another opportunity to have this kind of support in your tenure of public service. This is a do-or-die moment, and it will define your lives and your careers forever. Imagine the political capital that you could gain if you were united behind this action. Imagine the headlines, the donation, the re-election campaign slogans. You can each get a plaza named after you, or maybe even a new sports stadium. If you succumb to the political pressure of the mayor and the LAPD and ignore the calls for defunding, then you are saying to us, I accept the recurring killing of innocent Angelenos at the hands of police. This is okay with me. I sanction this with my vote. I have seen the light, and I have turned my back in exchange for political expediency. Search your souls, talk to your God, and may you find the courage to join us in this fight for abolition. If you cannot do that, then perhaps you should all resign. Black Lives Matter activists have been putting the tireless, thankless work to dream up this budget and a better future for all Angelenos, and nothing less will do than the adoption of this budget. If you cannot act in this moment when hundreds of thousands of Angelenos and millions of people around the world have their eyes on you, then you lack the imagination to be leaders. This is the largest civil rights demonstration in the history of the entire nation. If you cannot enact this change, then how do you expect it to get done? Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the item you wish to speak on.
Hi, my name is Allie, and I would like to make a public comment regarding item number 1.
Go right ahead.
Okay. Hi, I am asking the committee to please reject the proposed budget. I am an urban planning graduate student at UCLA, and I acknowledge the role my field has played in suppressing the voices of the less privileged. In an effort to combat this suppression, I am trying to use my voice to speak for those people who are unable to be at the table for this conversation. This is my first time speaking at a meeting, so please forgive me if I'm all over the place, but we need to talk about this budget. As you are all aware, the recent uprisings in the city and the mayor's budget proposal have raised concerns in the public. This budget is just a reiteration of the status quo by affording the police to militarize themselves when teachers in the same community barely make a livable wage and use most of their money to fund school supplies. We need a focus on community development and equity initiatives. Social workers responding to crisis calls is one example of the countless ways we can make a difference, but there's so much more that needs to be done, and the proposed reallocation amount is not enough. Additionally, the lack of diversity on this committee is astounding. With the exception of one person, there are no other people of color nor a single woman in this community, and that is absolutely not representative of the people in LA, and that is something the committee seriously needs to reflect upon. Thank you for listening, and I hope my words resonated with you. I yield my time.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the item you wish to speak on.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go right ahead.
My name is Cleo Byrne-Gooding. I want to speak on item 1. Council members, it is no less than your biggest moral obligation right now to defund the LAPD and give back to your city. We need more homes, better public transport, better community care. The list goes on. You know about it. You are alive. You have the power, so use it for good. If you don't, the next person to get murdered by LAPD will be on your shoulders. Your number one priority, ahead of your families, ahead of your children, ahead of your personal dreams and reputations, should be preventing the deaths of more Black and brown people in this city. If you don't defund police and refund the community now, it will happen eventually anyway. Sell LAPD assets, sell all the damn helicopters, seize hotel rooms and empty houses to house the homeless. Get creative, for Christ's sake. At this point, you are simply wasting all of our time and prolonging suffering. If God exists, God is watching you now. I yield my time.
Thanks very much. Next speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the item you wish to speak on.
Good afternoon. My name is Margaret Love. I'm a resident of District 2, and I'd like to make a general comment, please.
Go right ahead.
Thank you so much for your time today. I actually had a written statement prepared, and I have decided to abandon it and instead use this time that I have been given to implore you to listen to the voices that came before me. We have been on this call now for 3+ hours. The majority of that time has been spent with people asking you for one solid thing. There's been 3 calls asking for a spay and neuter, but how many calls have we already listened to that have asked to defund the police? They are not asking for reform. They are not siding with the mayor's proposal. They are loudly demanding you defund the police. I am asking you to defund the police. We need to divest in LADP, and we need to invest in affordable housing, in harm reduction, and in trauma response, among a myriad of other social services that would better support our community, especially our Black and Indigenous communities, our people of color, our trans community, our queer community, everyone that constantly gets left out of conversations because they do not have the majority voice. Please, I implore you, you say you don't want to listen to the hashtags, but those are the voices of your constituents as well. The emails are the voices of your constituents. These telephone calls are the voices of your constituents. Please defund the police. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the agenda item you wish to speak on.
Good afternoon, all. Could you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go right ahead.
My name is Salma Perez. I am an indigenous Zapoteca. Today I represent Semillas Community Schools and the Multicultural and Multi-Generational Coalition for Change in support of the Black Lives Matter and the People's Budget. LACLA are in agreement with the Council's decision to reduce the LAPD budget, but most importantly, defund police militarization in the city, county, and state, and prioritize the transformation of a police culture that respects human rights and civil society. invest in the needs of the community through education and opportunities for cultural and economic growth for young people. We ask that no more than 40% of the city's budget be allocated to LAPD. We also demand that more strategies be developed and implemented to properly protect Black, Brown, and Indigenous people from the police forces. Our tax dollars, cities and towns subsidize, especially as the city of Los Angeles plans to expend additional funds on policing instead of community building, housing, and education. We ask that the funds be reallocated to other city departments and programs according to the outline of the people's budget, namely that funds be distributed as so: universal aid and crisis management, built environment, reimagine community safety, community and cultural affairs, especially for Indigenous, Black, and migrant communities, restorative justice programs for those negatively affected by injunctions and Cal Gangs databases, gang reduction, and youth development. We ask for funds also to be distributed for universal access to quality healthcare and education, both private and public. LCLA offers its support and guidance to the Los Angeles City Council on understanding the perspective of the Los Angeles, Latinx, Indigenous, and Black communities' perspectives on budget allocation and the community solutions this budget can bring forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the item which you wish to speak on.
Hi, my name is David Brown from District 13, hoping to speak on item number 1.
Go right ahead.
Sure. I suppose I would be saying a lot of the same things as other people, to echo the calls to defund the police department and adopt the people's budget, but I guess I'd rather focus on some things that other people have said about what I imagine is a lot of political calculus being done among the city council members right now, where there have been a lot of declarations denouncing the violence that we've seen against Black and Brown people around this country and historically, but I think a missing component in a lot of that discussion has been that the police is the fist at the end of an arm, the heart and the head of which rests with people like you, our elected officials, at the behest of police unions and other people who are attempting to obfuscate the blame. And I believe that that veil is being lifted, and you now face a choice of whether you're going to continue your political futures with the people who now understand how that structure is set up, or you can attempt to remain on the ship that has so far kept you afloat but is, I believe, rapidly sinking. That's about all I have to say. Spay and neuter pets as well, why not? Thanks so much. I yield my time.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the item you wish to speak on.
Hello, my name is Natalie, and I'm speaking on item 1 in general public comment.
Go right ahead.
I'm a recent high school graduate born and raised in Los Angeles. As a member of the youth, I would like to say that this $150 million is a stunt and is only about 5% of the LAPD's funding. Our communities are worth more, and it is insulting to think us as the people would not notice this cop-out. The finances within the LAPD, such as pensions and overtime pay, need to be reevaluated and budgeted. The amount LAPD is currently funded is superfluous. Growing up here as a person of color, there is too much police in Black and Brown communities that has caused fear to me and my friends rather than actual community support and safety. I, members of the youth, urge for the City Council to take more out from police funding and put back into free youth programs and art programs. These opportunities keep young people out of gangs, drugs, and other violence, because we need opportunities for success. It should also be addressed that the disabled living here often can only have part-time jobs due to their disabilities and find themselves struggling with the lack of government support and the increase of unaffordable housing. I also deeply encourage for money from police funding be taken to address our homelessness. I've worked in shelters and volunteered on Skid Row, and there is not nearly enough affordable housing, well-paying jobs, mental health services, and drug rehabilitation. Many people living on the streets of LA have come from similar backgrounds to you and I. It is similar institutions and volunteers mainly helping, where I have witnessed with my own eyes police storing out all belongings from homeless or giving them 5 minutes to pack their whole lives and move somewhere else. For years, force like this has been a temporary solution, and often homeless families are forgotten and neglected. They are citizens of Los Angeles in addition There are only so much housing available for families. If there's no room in a specific family housing facility, it can be very dangerous for children. The city should be the ones helping because you created this problem. Not just volunteers and small organizations should be helping. Listen to your citizens. Listen to the people actually living here. If you continue to fund the police, the blood of the 106 and counting by LAPD in 8 years will be on your hands. Defund the police. I yield my time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Hello, my name is Andrea Keene. I am from Council District 4 in the Hollywood Hills, and I'm calling in to speak on item 1 in general comments. Like many of the residents of Los Angeles who've called, emailed, tweeted, and marched in opposition, I'm demanding the council and the mayor revise this abhorrent, racist, classist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic, and ableist budget, with the most vital change being defunding the LAPD and reallocating those funds to support our communities in a way that benefits its residents and voters. The LAPD is one of the most abusive and corrupt law enforcement departments in the country, which results in both unacceptable human rights consequences and fiscal consequences, which disproportionately affect Black, brown, queer, female, trans, and disabled bodies. I demand Mayor Garcetti and this council draft a people's budget which defunds the LAPD, implements community care and support executed by educated, credentialed professionals. I implore the council to consider their legacies and how their decisions will affect their family members carrying their name for generations. If you do not work to defund the police, you will bring permanent dishonor to your name, and we will work tirelessly to unseat you. Thank you very much. I yield my time.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the item you wish to speak on. Caller, please state your name and the item you wish to speak on.
Go ahead, caller. Okay, next caller, please.
Caller, please state your name and the agenda item you wish to speak on. Wayne from Encino! All items, please! Okay, here we go. Welcome back. The Budget King has returned. Only 4 hours and 7 minutes on hold. Thank you for taking me so quickly. Now, as you see, you've heard a lot of people use colorful metaphors to describe how they feel about our budget. In the words of Jose Huizar, fuck you and fuck the city council. Mr. Huizar has not been charged or convicted of a crime, but because he has brown skin and the LAPD beats the shit out of anybody that's not white, he can't attend council meetings. Right, Councilman B, a.k.a. Current Press?
That's right, sir.
Absolutely. Now, I wish you would have voted on the motion first before you took public comment. That way, Mr. Krikorian could be arrested in front of his gay son, H-Rag, and his fat pig wife, Tamar, on the 11 o'clock news. But you caught it just in time. And I also note you're not there with Mr. Fauble. Mr. Fauble is the criminal attorney for Nuri Martinez, that fat fucking cunt that can't stop eating 24/7. And of course, they're blackmailing Monica Rodriguez because she used to be a prostitute back in the day before she got enough money to buy her seat on the city council. Time. So, I demand justice. Fuck the police. Fuck you. Fuck Mayor Garcetti.
Your time has expired. Thank you very much. Your time has expired. Next caller, please.
Caller, please state your name and the item you wish to speak on.
My name is MJ. Speaking on the agenda item 1 in general public comment.
Go right ahead.
I'm asking the City Council to reject the mayor's budget and to pass a budget that prioritizes the actual needs of Los Angeles residents by adopting the Healthy LA and People's Budgets Coalition. Our communities were already facing the nation's worst housing and homelessness crisis before the pandemic. Black residents are overrepresented in the homeless population and are at higher risk of dying from COVID as a direct result of systematic discrimination, generational poverty, and a lack of community resources. Councilmember Blumenfield mentioned infrastructure, and no one is asking for less money for infrastructure. We're asking for that money to be taken away from the LAPD. Let's put that money towards infrastructure in Black and brown communities that continue to be neglected in terms of public transportation, green space, and accessibility for disabled citizens. It's not enough to make nominal budget cuts to the LAPD. We need to defund and abolish the police and divert that funding towards housing and social services to our most vulnerable citizens and reparations to Black and Indigenous communities. The police do not keep us safe, they do not prevent crime, and they do not achieve justice. In fact, domestic violence is 2 to 4 times more common among police families than American families in general, and police officers are known to commit sexual assault with impunity, specifically targeting minors, sex workers, unhoused women, and women of color. You need to defund the LAPD and use that money to address the root causes of what you've deemed as criminal behavior. Every dollar you decide to give to the LAPD instead of underserved communities sends a clear message to your POC constituents, particularly your Black and Indigenous constituents, that the city views them as potential liabilities that will inevitably need to be caged and controlled, rather than human beings and communities who've made this city what it is today and deserve to flourish. Don't tell us what you can't do. Don't tell us you can't afford it. It's your job to make it work, to find and research alternatives, and to serve the citizens who pay you to do your job. Black Lives Matter and their allies and other grassroots organizers have laid all of this out for you, and you should be thanking them for doing the work that you're paid to do but haven't bothered to do. You work for us, the police work for us, and we're saying loud and clear that they're fired. Please reject the mayor's budget, abolish the police, and pass the people's budget.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the agenda item you wish to speak on.
Go right ahead.
Hello, my name's Natalie, and I'd like to
Hi,
speak
go right
on,
ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go right ahead.
Thank you. I'd like to speak on item number 12 and 1. I was raised and rooted in Los Angeles. I am an arts professional, and I, just like everyone else that's spoken before me, definitely want to uplift a lot of these voices. I am a woman of color, and I, too, want to just share my support of the people's budget. These are our taxpayer dollars, and we're really looking to leadership, especially asking for accountability across the board. So we're looking to you and what you're going to do, and clearly the people have spoken. Secondly, in terms of item number 12, we definitely want to fund the DCA, without a doubt. As an intern of what used to exist, the youth arts and education sector of the DCA no longer exists now. We definitely want to make sure that we're looking to our future and our future generations to come. When we're thinking about even our current situation in the last few months, one of the first things, aside from reaching out and seeking community, is really looking to arts and culture. And without a doubt, we want to make sure that we invest and that we do not eliminate the DCA as we look to all these budget items. And I know there's a lot of big numbers being thrown around, but just know that there's people behind it too. And I know you all on this board are trying your best, but I know this meeting's been going on for over 3 hours. We too are listening, and we're looking, and we're taking action. And we want to stand behind what the people represent right now. And again, just want to say thank you, but also that these actions that will be taken by leadership are going to. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please. And we have about 10 minutes to go before we will return to the agenda. 10 minutes to go. Please, next speaker.
Caller, please state your name and the agenda item you wish to speak on.
Yeah, this is Rob Kwan. I'd like to speak on items 1 and 2.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. I'd like to take a step back to last year when our committee chair spoke about the reserve fund and acknowledged that we had some labor contract negotiations pending, and that while we had a mighty reserve fund, it would not be something that could withstand a recession like we had in 2008. I think it's important to, not forget the original sin. Why is COVID hitting us hard? We can't make up for lost revenues because we have a massive LAPD raise that snuck through in the fall that is sandbagging everything we want to do. This budget deficit isn't driven by COVID. It's driven by cowardice and corruption. We're looking at $288 million below our previous budget, and we're looking at shortfalls for our next budget of $45 to $400 million. And our mayor's sneaking in a proposal to cut an additional $100 million from other city departments. You know that those other cuts are going to be devastating and don't offer significant savings. We need all of that $250 million to come from LAPD, and that's just a start. With all due respect, our budget chair last week said that we can't budget by hashtag, but your committee and your council have been budgeting with silence on LAPD, and that is really just criminal. Despite waves of public comment asking you to talk about this issue, only now are we actually hearing our council members openly address the sacred cow of LAPD. You sat silent through so many warnings of waste, fraud, and abuse. And despite all that, we've really seen nothing from this council as far as changing that tide. Failure to adequately cut LAPD means more cuts to other essential services. We need to end the drop retirement program. And with Councilmember Corrett, what we're seeing is naked politics. With you, that's particularly unseemly. We've got an issue here with you running for office and seeking the support of the Police Protective League Union, and nobody should forget that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Next speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the item you wish to speak on.
My name is Christiana Kopp-Dozier, and I'm here calling because I want to support the people's budget. You've heard it so many times on this call. What we're saying is that we're tired. We've had enough. If you're tired of hearing people say, fuck you, then I suggest you listen to them. I want to affirm that $150 million is not enough. We see people suffering in our community, and police are not the answer to these issues. They are not social workers. They are not educators. They cannot house the homeless. They cannot de-escalate in traumatic situations. They are not trained to be therapists, but we have therapists in our community. They are not educators, but we have educators in our community that aren't getting the funding that they need. I could go on and emphasize what's already been said over and over, but the reality is you just need to defund the police. There's no questions, there's no commas, there's nothing going on, but you know you need to defund the police and do what is right and bring about people that are trained to bring about change in our community. So let's do what's best and not give in to systemic pressure to uphold a system that's founded in racism and intimidation. I yield my time.
Thanks very much. Next speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the agenda item you wish to speak on.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go right ahead.
Okay, yeah. I'll keep it quick, but the city council is owned by LAPD. We know this. We know that you take their contributions from their union, and police are an instrument of white supremacy. That is not a radical concept. This whole council is completely corrupt, and we know you're lying when you say you can't defund the police. We know you can defund the police. Listen to the people. Listen to what we're saying. Shut the fuck up about
Caller?
Caller, are you there? We can't hear you. All right, I'm very sorry. That call seems to have been dropped. Caller, are you there? Okay, we'll need to go to the next caller. I apologize. Don't know what happened there. Go right ahead. Next speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the agenda item you wish to speak on. Caller, please state your name and the agenda item you wish to speak on.
Go right ahead.
Caller, please state your name and the agenda item you wish to speak on.
Hello, my name is Emily Bargoma. I am a member of Black Lives Matter LA. I'd like to speak on item number 1 and leave a general comment. I'm calling to insist that we defund the police. Divesting $150 million from $3.1 billion budget that's allocated to the LAPD makes absolutely no sense. The City Council should reject Garcetti's shameless budget plan and adopt the people's budget. The people have spoken. This is our money. We've been casually defunding schools for decades, helping the system make way for the school-to-prison pipeline. We're increasing spending to create a police state while our homeless population continues to grow, increasing police state while public health services, trade, vocational job trainings, libraries, community center services are significantly cut. You're choosing to continue to fund a slave-catching system, one that criminalizes my people. This is not right and it's unacceptable. Coronavirus has wiped us out financially, so the most logical response to that by the mayor is to fund the police. The same individuals that are on video brutalizing protesters, these are folks that are currently unemployed, folks that were giving a measly $1,200 to cope while the government bails out white-collar criminals. You would rather continue to fund a failed system than listen to the people and reimagine a budget that is moral and just, one that funds communities of color. Are you afraid to fund these communities because doing so will deplete your prisons of your modern-day slaves, my people? Stop being bullied by the fraternity of the police. Do the right thing. Defund the police. And to our allies and accomplices on the road to the abolition with us, thank you. Because when we win, everybody wins. We are winning. We will win. Black Lives Matter.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please. We'll be taking 2 more speakers, and then we'll be moving on. Next speaker, please.
Caller, please state your name and the item which you wish to speak on.
And turn off your device, please.
Hello, my name is Joe Randazzo. I'd like to speak on number 1. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go right ahead.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank everyone who spoke before. This has been one of the most incredible experiences of my life, listening to my fellow citizens speak so eloquently, so knowledgeably, so passionately, so fairly, except for a few people who use the F word, with you to empower you right now to do something that no other city council has ever had the courage to do, that we're witnessing in one place across the country. And while I'm trying to stop myself from talking, but I am a white person, and the things I can speak to as a white person are cops and technocratic eggheads, which seem to be kind of what we're discussing here. And I don't mean this as an insult. I do want to ask you, city council members, have you ever met a cop? Have you had any experiences with police officers? I don't mean to generalize, but I'm going to do exactly that, because police officers, if you come out of an experience with a police officer not feeling offended by their humanity, then you're either one of them or you're somebody who worships authority. And I know plenty of technocratic eggheads who worship authority, who probably do not have good relationships with their fathers and bury their heads in numbers. So when I hear someone talk about the cost of burnt-out police cars after describing at length the physical process of killing George Floyd and ranking him perhaps second to Rodney King, And then I hear that that person is the person who's in charge of allocating money, our money, our people's money, and can't seem to find the moral fiber within him to do it. It's so clear that you're living in another world. Thank you very much. I encourage you to defund the police and support the people's budget. They've done all the work. The most leadership you can do now is to step aside and let the people who are actually living in the city decide how it needs to be handled in the future. That's the best thing that you can do. Thank you so much. Frig the police.
Thank you very much. And let's go ahead and call the next speaker, which will be our final caller for this evening.
Caller, please state your name and the agenda item you wish to speak on.
Hi, my name is Malika Dhaliwal, and I would like to discuss agenda item number 1 and provide general public comment.
Go right ahead.
Hi, I have lived in LA for most of my life. My mom is a doctor on the forefront of the COVID-19 crisis, and it spoke to me so much when you almost called a vote without hearing the people's comments first. You know, the LAPD has been a corrupt system for almost the entire existence of Los Angeles, from its inception to the Rodney King riots to the Rampart scandal to Michael Moore's comments recently. They have not earned our respect or our budget, and they operate with impunity and without accountability until they can. Until you can show us that there's an LAPD that's willing to work for all of its people. The best solution is to defund the LAPD and provide those resources to students, to mental health workers, to all these people who are sorely underfunded. Students are in school with cops and no counselors, and I call on you to defund the LAPD and do the right thing.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you to everyone who participated today to speak. We will now return to, first let's go back to the FSR and go ahead and call that for a vote, and then we will move on to our next agenda items.
Councilmember Krikorian?
Aye.
Councilmember Price?
Aye.
Councilmember Correct?
Aye.
Councilmember Blumenfield?
Blumenfield, aye.
And Councilmember Bonin?
Bonin, aye.
Thank you. The FSR is approved as amended.
Very good. Thank you very much. Next agenda item, please.
If you'd like to start with item number 1, that is the Mayor's proposed fiscal year 2020-2021 budget for the City of Los Angeles, related motions and communications from city departments, and the City Administrative Officer report relative to the impact on city services of the furlough program included in the fiscal year 2021 proposed budget and related matters.
Okay, so with this, members, if there are particular departments that you would like to hear from with regard to the proposal to furlough employees, then we should go ahead and consider those with regard to this. In either event, this item will, of course, be continued forward so we can have continuing discussion about both the budget and furloughs. But I'd like to ask if any members would like to call any department special to consider furlough impacts at this time.
I'd like to call HSID and EMD.
Okay. All right, any others?
I'm sorry, and Department of Aging.
Aging?
Yep.
All right.
Chairman, you've asked for furloughs. Are we discussing the furloughs?
Yes, this is regarding furlough impact.
Furloughs.
That's right. Mr. Price?
Furloughs or budgets, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry, excuse me.
Yes. Oh, yes. Go right ahead. If you have concerns about the budget besides furloughs, that is fine as well.
Okay, yeah, I do have a couple of departments I'm going to get further information on. Sanitation, street services, LAPD, cannabis, personnel, EWDD, and HCID, called by Mr. Fun. HCID.
Mr. Blumenfield.
Yeah, I have a number of problems. I think some of these were already read, so I'm just going to read my list, and I think half of them have been done. But Streets LA, EWDD, HCID, LAPD, Fire, Cannabis, Board of Public Works, Animal Services, Aging, Planning, Building and Safety.
Okay. I'm sorry, Mr. I forgot LADOT.
Say again, Mr. Bonin.
LADOT, don't know how I missed that one.
Okay. And Mr. Kretz, and members, just so I can kind of
have any other departments not already covered?
So just so I can lay this out, we're not obviously going to go through the budgets of these departments tonight on these issues. This is for purposes of determining which departments you will want to hear back from as we move forward through the hearings in June. So furlough impacts, but also more broadly, budgetary discussions, because normally we would hear every department head, as you know. Because of the abnormal circumstances of this situation, we're trying to get a list of the departments that you'll want to hear back from as we move forward.
Oh, in that case, LAFD and Recreation and Parks as well.
Okay. Mr. Kretz?
I think all have been well covered.
Okay. And let's see. Mr. Price, did you mention economic and workforce development?
Yes, I did.
Okay, terrific.
Thank you.
And the Civil and Human Rights Commission? If anyone has not mentioned the Civil and Human Rights Commission, let's go ahead and include that, as well as the clerk.
Well. ITA.
ITA, okay.
And
Mr.
I
Kretz?
did miss two also, City Attorney and City Controller.
City Attorney and City Controller, okay. This is not speak now or forever hold your peace, because we will be able to revisit this, of course, at each of our meetings. This is really just to give departments advance notice that these will be coming up. So anything else, members, at this time? Okay. I'm going to just take a two minute break here for just 1 second. Hold on 1 minute, please.
While they take a break, and I chew on a snack, we've been listening to the Budget and Finance Committee for the Los Angeles City Council and hearing public comments. Most super powerful, many entertaining, supporting the people's budget in LA and defunding LAPD, one of the most criminal and murderous police departments in the United States. I believe they voted on the budget without public comment, or they almost did.
Okay, so I just want to make sure we had that. Okay, so I just want to make sure we had that comprehensive list taken care of. It appears that we do. So thank you all very much. We're going to go ahead and hold this item and continue it forward to our hearing of 6 of June 15th, and that will take us then to item number 3 on our agenda. Item 3.
Thank you, sir. Item 3 is motion Martinez, Price, Wesson, Blumenfield relative to amending the mayor's proposed budget for fiscal year 2020-21 to instruct the CAO to continue negotiations with the labor coalition partners and report back before July 1st, 2020 on whether it is necessary to proceed with the proposed furloughs, and instruct the CAO to report in the first financial status report with an assessment of how soon the furlough requirement can be adjusted or eliminated.
Okay. Does anybody wish to comment on this, or can we go ahead and approve this matter and move forward? Okay, I recommend approval of this motion. Is there any objection to approving it? No. Well, actually, I guess we have to call, since we're telephonic, we have to call for a roll call vote. So let's go ahead and call for a roll call vote on this, please.
Councilmember Krikorian?
Well, this is going to be long and painful, as they probably have to do a voice vote for all of these items, which are amendments to the mayor's budget, essentially, none of which are the people's budget, of course. And as a matter of fact, there's one item here that actually increases the LAPD budget by $100,000 for youth programs. So the budget looks like it's going to get passed as written, despite much hours of public comment, not all of which I was able to capture, but much of it we did capture, expressed the views of myself and many other people in Los Angeles going to these protests that the LAPD needs to be defunded, and $150 million that Mayor Garcetti is suggesting be cut, in addition to $100 million being cut from other programs to serve, racial justice, is not enough. It's pennies. Don't touch the other programs. Cut the budget of the LAPD in half, and then we can start talking. Otherwise, we're in the streets. We're in the streets, people. These guys are corrupt. You heard it. The LA City Council is corrupt and is under the thumb of the LAPD, as is the mayor. I don't think there's a mayor in one city in the United States right now that has control over their police department. And LA being one of the most, New York another one. But these are criminal organizations, essentially, these cops, along with their union, which is basically a mafia. And special rules for cops. They get their own they get their own rules. Basically, license to kill. Dumb thugs with license to kill. And if you're a good cop, there are no. What did Michael Moore today, or at least on one of his recent podcasts, said there are no good cops as long as there are bad cops. And he had heard that at a protest, and that is the case. If you can stand around and not do anything in that uniform, you're not a good cop. The good Germans, they called them. Thanks for joining in, guys. Just thought I'd bring this to you because it was powerful. And I got one public comment that was very typical of LA City Council. Public comments are quite entertaining on occasion. But this was a directed effort for activists to call in. Black Lives Matter activists and organizers in LA, Black Lives Matter LA, and others. Got the People's Budget LA hashtag trending, and lots of callers into the city council. So thanks for watching. We'll see you guys on Sunday for the show. Free the plant, free the people. Bot for peace. Love you all.